Welcome to the Hollywood Outsider, an award-winning entertainment podcast. And this week we discuss the impending doom around the lack of popcorn, Top Gun setting new heights, and the happenings at ATX Season 11. And our outside-in topic this week, do TV series fans deserve an ending to their canceled programs? Let's go ahead and get on with the show. My name is Troy Heinrichs, not Aaron Peterson. Aaron is taking the week off this week, as well as Amanda Sink. So I only have one hoe in the house with me. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing all right. How you doing, buddy?
I'm good. We get to rule the roost, run the asylum, whatever you want to call it.
I feel like asylum is accurate.
We'll call it Inside the Tube, because we're talking TV for the most part this week, because joining us fresh from Austin, Texas, literally off the plane today from the ATX Festival, is Mr. Kyle from NoReruns.net. Kyle, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me on.
It's been a while since we've seen you, buddy.
Yeah, I'm not used to doing video podcasts. I'm normally doing the just audio only.
See, what you don't know is Kyle actually has a twin, so we don't know if this is actually Kyle or not Kyle, but we'll get canceled before we actually get the 5th season of this podcast to find out if he's actually the real twin or not.
It'll be the reveal's about to happen. That's the end of the season, and then we never get it.
It's like heartbreaking.
I'm already upset.
You're still mad about the OA.
Yes, I am. How do you know I wrote that down?
It's vibes. I could just see it. You were like mouthing OA.
Yeah. That's not the one I was going to actually talk about, but yeah, that you just brought up a whole lot of memories.
Well, then keep those memories bottled up, because we have some things to talk about, like Johnny Depp getting 15 bills was the last number I heard, and then the number kept changing throughout the day. Do we care how much money he has? Do we care that Amber Heard is never going to work again? What is our take on the Johnny Depp Amber Heard trial? We'll go to Kyle first.
I think I'm just glad it's over, but I don't think we'll ever stop talking about it. I think it's just going to go on forever. And then you're going to get more people now demanding that you get ripped out of Aquaman 2, unless they already said, they haven't said they were going to do that yet, right?
Oh, I think it's confirmed now.
I think it's confirmed. That's what I saw.
So yeah, then the internet wins, and then that leads to more complaints on the internet, and it's the never-ending cycle of internet entitlement.
What about you, John? Are you sad that the trial's over?
No, not really. I'm glad it's over. I'm sad that some of the funny things that are being shared on the internet aren't going to be shared as often, but honestly, it was way too much to, like, it really just shows you how disappointing the human race is in a way. Because, this is like in the 90s, we had the OJ trial, right? And this is the 90s, this is like the 2010s version or 20s version of the OJ trial, only less stabby and bloody. So I don't know which one I like better.
Well, I think you like the Amber Heard one better, because it just had time travel involved, apparently, from all the time decades that you just went through there.
Yeah, I don't know how time works. So I just kind of show up wherever I show up. I'm kind of like Brick from Anchorman. You can't really tell what's going on with him. That's where I am, because you know the whole story about Brick being a time traveler from Anchorman, right?
For sure.
Yeah, so that's me.
And I think Anchorman just dropped on one of the streaming services this month, so you can relive Anchorman in all of its glory yet again. Yeah, I'm going to be definitely sad with all the memes and stuff. This isn't a video podcast, but if you know the meme, then we can say things like, "I'll never see OA on my TV."
Oh my God. I can't believe you just made the face.
The crazy Amber Heard face after that is just, I watch those TikToks on repeat because they're just so great.
Made fun of my small pee-pee.
My mashed potatoes were lacking gravy. It's so good.
We might want to start moving on before Aaron magically shows up and tries to kill both of us.
He's like secretly watching this through like a backdoor thing or something.
Yeah, it's exactly what it is.
Well, he's going to be really mad that when he hears about this, because for some reason, people are saying that we will not have popcorn by the time our late July, August movies roll around. I mean, Scott Clark would for sure be upset about this if you've ever seen that man eat popcorn. But
Well, he's more of like a butter person than he is a popcorn person.
Oh, I have the popcorn soup as well. Mine is definitely soup by the end of at the bottom of the bucket.
Who invited this guy to be here? Come on.
Oh, I think you did.
Why did you guys do this to your popcorn? I don't understand.
Never mind the popcorn. How about your bodies?
So what's the deal here? Do you think we're going to see a popcorn shortage? Do you think it's just a ploy for the movie theaters to jack prices up and get people to buy popcorn before it's all gone because they're trying to make up money from the pandemic? Is this conspiracy theory 2022?
If we were going to do a conspiracy theory, we would have to watch the corn companies' like profits margins and go through all the whole thing. Just to, like, you know, we're going to make 300% like whatever growth for the year, all in this span of the summer. I don't know. I can't imagine we're going to live in a world where popcorn supply is low when we've got high fructose corn syrup running around. We've got a whole bunch of other stuff. If popcorn's going to run low, that means Coke's going to go away and Pepsi's going to have problems and ethanol. I mean, all this stuff.
Yeah, I think this is just a ploy. Like they're putting out the grease protection bags are running low so that they can sell you their $15 collectible tub that you can reuse, but no one ever uses them because they don't want to get them greasy to begin with because they're collectible, and so it's all like a big cycle to sell more collectible products.
I could tell you that I went to see Top Gun, and I get the AMC Kids Pack, which is like, you know, it's a bag inside of a box. You get the fruit snack and the drink. I didn't get the box. I barely got the bag. I got a brown lunch bag that you would take to school when you were like a younger kid. Maybe you still take them today. But I had this brown bag, and the butter soaked through the bottom, so I'd have like doubled up napkins for it. It was disgusting. So the squeeze is already on, as they say. And they're trying to blame the farmers. They're actually saying that farmers, because of the pandemic, decided to not grow as much corn and switched over to soybeans because soybeans were more lucrative. And I don't see how that's possible because corn isn't everything.
I think NATO's going to have to start investing in their own corn fields just to make sure they have enough product.
I mean, I don't know what kind of product you're using, Kyle, but we can talk about that later. I got a guy on the inside. Get you a good deal.
He's clearly just using the popcorn as a way to transport the quote unquote butter to his face.
Oh, definitely. I'm not denying that at all. That's exactly what the popcorn is there for, is for the quote unquote butter.
Yeah, because we can't really call it butter, can we? Like they don't even call it butter. They call it like
buttery topping.
Popcorn topping.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Liquid gold or something.
That it is.
I have no idea.
I'm pretty sure it's the same stuff that Clark Griswold sprayed on the bottom of that sled.
Even though we're talking about eating popcorn, and then most people are doing that because they're seeing Top Gun. Top Gun Maverick, second weekend. This hasn't happened in like a long time. But the Paramount and Skydance movie collected $90 million over the weekend, above Sunday's already massive estimate of $86 million. So the fact that they were overshooting the estimate and it's still holding as high as it is in the second weekend, Kyle, I don't remember the last movie prior to the pandemic that was able to be this successful in the second weekend. Do you?
No, I mean, Tom is just cruising through the box office there.
Kyle waited all day on the plane to use that.
Oh, I have it written down in my notes. I didn't want to forget that joke. But
I'm disappointed in both of you.
But I think it helped that there was pretty much nothing new this week. But still, I mean, it's still a great achievement. I mean, it'll be interesting next week when Jurassic World comes to definitely take a bite out of that. Pun intended.
Man, he's 2 for 2, John.
I hate you both.
He's stealing my game this week. I don't understand.
He really is. He's like stepping all over your toes. And you brought him on the show.
I regret this decision already.
Yeah, it's bad.
What do you think, John? Do you think that the last installment of Jurassic is going to knock off fighter jets and Ruskies and all the good stuff that's happening?
I can't imagine it not happening like that. Like 2 weekends in a row of fighter jets, that makes sense. But I don't know. I'm pretty sure that on the third weekend, senseless violence involving dinosaurs wins.
Now, have you had a chance to see Top Gun yet, John?
No.
Still not. That's a bummer.
I'm still stuck in the middle of nowhere, man.
I know. But you'll be the one person. You're going to go see it next weekend. You'll be the one person that puts it over the top and it beats out the dinosaurs because you went next weekend.
I'm not doing that. It's not that I don't want to. Just not worth it.
Crazy word of mouth for Top Gun. So if you haven't seen it yet, definitely go see it. Would you say that this is better than the first one, Kyle?
I'd say it's just as good. I mean, I can't remember when I actually first saw Top Gun. I don't think it was in the 80s. I think I saw it later on because that would have been rated R, right?
Right.
Yeah, so I don't think
Yes.
I saw it as a kid. I think I saw it later on. So I didn't have that huge nostalgia factor for it. But yeah, I think it's pretty much on par with the first one for me.
And this is now bigger than Tom Cruise's last kind of big domestic box office win, which was War of the Worlds. War of the Worlds brought in $243 million, Cruise's highest grossing film in North America, pandemic or not. And now Top Gun Maverick is sitting at $295. It was a 29% decrease from last week, which is actually better than Spider-Man No Way Home and Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness, which both declined 67% in their sophomore outing. So you can tell like how much leg this has right now. Batman itself, right? Robert Pattinson's Batman, it only fell 50%. So for this to only drop 29%, it's a pretty big deal. People want to come back to the movie theater. And it's a good thing because we got lots of good stuff coming.
Yeah, no, that's very exciting to see that the theaters are picking up in activity, especially for a movie like this. I remember actually seeing this movie in the theater. I was still living in Panama. One of the parents of the group, of the group of kids, took us all to go see it, and it was quite an experience for 8-year-old me.
You know what is a good experience for 8-year-olds?
What's that?
Seeing Scream.
Okay.
Because you should be a little bit older to see Scream.
Okay.
But sadly, for those of us that do want to go back to the movie theaters, the one person that doesn't want to go back to the movie theaters is Neve Campbell, because she is not coming back now for Scream 6.
I can't really say that I blame her. She's done enough of these movies. She doesn't need to hang her hat on this stuff anymore. I welcome her to go off and do other things. I just finished up watching all of Lincoln Lawyer on Netflix, and she's fantastic in that. I want to see her do more things like that. I don't need to see her go back to the Scream franchise. I saw Scream 5 not too long ago. And though it was nice seeing her there, and it was nice seeing her, I much rather the idea that this is a baton handoff to the next generation.
What did you think, Kyle? Did you like seeing the OG back in this movie, or would you rather have had it just ride off into the sunset and just go with the new crew?
Oh, I thought they did a good job of bringing in the old people first, just pass it off to the new people. So I don't think she's necessarily needed in this next film. I'm also wondering if they're just saying this and then she's going to suddenly magically show up and they just won't advertise it. But, yeah, because I saw mixed stories. One said it was like a money dispute. Another one said she hated the script. So who knows where the truth lies in there. But, yeah, she certainly doesn't need to do yet another Scream movie.
Yeah, it was saying something about like the role wasn't written well for what Cindy could live up to from an expectation perspective. And then I saw another report that basically said you wouldn't have this franchise if it wasn't for this character. So even if I only say 2 things the entire movie, pay me ungodly amounts of Brinks truck money in order to make this thing happen. And they wouldn't pay her, so she walked, which is fine to me. Like you said, I think the handoff happened in Scream 5. You don't need Courtney Cox, David Arquette. We all know what happens in Scream 5. And then, of course, you have, Sydney. We don't need Cindy anymore because we have the new cast. And I thought the new cast really did really well to carry the torch forward from what they brought to the screens in the 5th movie. So we'll have to see what happens for sure. But we have a lot to talk about on this particular episode, and it wouldn't be possible if it wasn't for our patron supporters, because our show is independently funded, and therefore all of the expenses are from our own pockets, and Patreon helps fans support their favorite podcasts like this one. And once you sign up, you get immediate access to all of the content in the respective tier, including the newest Bad Movie Nights. Remember, you can always get Bad Movie Night on our other feed, and you can get all the old Bad Movie Nights out there. But any new Bad Movie Nights, like the one we're about to do for this month for Jurassic Park 3, you can only get that if you go over to Patreon. That's patreon.com/The Hollywood Outsider. Support the show. We really appreciate it. It's the only way John will ever get out of his current situation, so we can afford to move him or at least build a theater near him.
Yeah, either one of those actually are really great. So if you guys could just start throwing as much money as possible so that I can go buy a box under a bridge somewhere so I can start going to go see movies, that would be great.
With that, let's go ahead and transition into why Kyle is here in the first place. So ATX, the American Television Experience, has been going on for 11 seasons now, primarily housed down in Austin, Texas, the same place that you've heard us talk about on this show, the South by Southwest fun that happens up in March. So the television experience is strictly television, where South by Southwest is like movies and entertainment and music and technology. This is solely focused on television, and it really tries to do a good job of bringing back not only current information, but also things from the past. And this is the one year that I wanted to go see this in person, because two of my most favorite shows were having reunions this year. I couldn't make it. I couldn't see Kyle in person. I was so sad. So instead, we figured Kyle would come here. He would tell us all about it. Kyle, first of all, how's Austin doing? Does it feel like the festival has recovered from pandemic times? I know this was virtual the last 2 years.
Yeah,
what did you think about the return to Austin?
Yeah, they changed some of the venues around this year, but it still felt very much the same as it's been. I've been going since season 4, and it definitely still had that small festival feeling, but also big in the sense of all the programming that they bring to it. So they try to do a mix of like current shows, old shows and reunions, and upcoming shows. They want to show you usually they have a pilot or two from the upcoming fall season. So they had that same mix. They also try to do a mix of show-specific panels as well as these topical panels. So they do a nice job of bringing in people for one thing, but then mixing them up and finding combinations of panelists to make all these other interesting panels.
What's a typical day for you? Like, are you up at like 5 a.m. trying to get in line for stuff, or do you get to like eat a nice breakfast and then you can...
This isn't Comic-Con. Like they usually only let people start lining up about an hour before. So, and the first panel of the day is at 10 a.m. So this is nowhere near as bad as Comic-Con. I mean, the sun is worse, so you're waiting out in the sun. But I think this year, the only things that people seem to break that 1 hour thing were the Scrubs reunion and the maybe the Parenthood and Westworld. But those were still pretty close to an hour. But Scrubs was the main one that people started lining up super early.
Because that is the best show on TV by far, for sure.
Yeah, and that one they also added a separate, like, Bill Lawrence, Zach Braff conversation about how they work together. And that one...
Oh, that's cool.
So what they did this year was they used to always use the Alamo Drafthouse Theater, which those were nice to be in, but they only held 80 and 120 people. So this year, with that theater shut down, they ended up switching to the Paramount and the Stateside for a lot of their things, which hold 700 and 1,200. So the really nice thing was a lot of people got in to see these things when normally they probably would have stuck it in one of those other theaters, which would have been very limiting. However, the Zach Braff and Bill Lawrence panel was in this new 100-person room, so that definitely filled up. And they also had like a Station 11 panel, which was in a smaller venue that also completely filled up. I don't think they were expecting that for the Station 11, but that one was one of the other ones that the only two panels I went to that were completely full at one point.
That's because those people are probably Aaron's friends and don't understand the quality programming that Station 11 was.
I mean,
John appreciates Station 11, and he would have been at that panel had he had the chance to get down there, I'm sure.
No. No, that would have been a really great panel to be at, but only for Aaron's sake could I have to say no to that.
Okay, so you're playing the role of Grumpy Gus this week, I understand.
Yeah. Somebody's got to do it, right?
See, I'm not generally a Station 11 fan. I was actually had planned to go to a script reading that they had, because those are always fun. They bring in people that are there for other panels just to do all the various parts for the script reading, but that got canceled. So then I had an open slot in my schedule, so I'm like, I'll just walk across the street and go to the Station 11 panel. But I mean, it ended up being pretty interesting. They had people from all different departments. They had like an editor, a costume designer, a music person, a casting person. So it was all the different departments, and they talked about everything that it takes to put the show together. Which, I mean, it's a wonder how anything ever gets made with so many different departments that all have to coordinate and figure things out.
Costume designer, isn't that basically going to a thrift shop, putting clothes on, and then rolling around in the dirt for that show?
Well, one thing. Well, they were mainly talking about the whole Hamlet play scene, and so the woman was talking about how they wanted to use all synthetic fabrics because that's all that would be left after the apocalypse. But the problem is all that stuff's super flammable. So then they had to make sure the lighting guy wasn't going to light it really hot and set the costumes on fire, especially with like the headdress was like all made out of cardboard, and so they had all these other issues that they had to try to use like some kind of spray to make it fire retardant, and also make sure, like at one point he lights some fire, so they wanted to make sure it wasn't too big of a fire, and so they had to think about all these extra things just because of that problem with the fabrics.
So that's the kind of fun stuff that you want to go to a con like this to get that inside information, because I think that's cool.
What happened to Susie? I don't know. She was wearing a dress made of movie reel film, and somebody lit a match right next to her.
Did you get?
Well, like you already mentioned, the big ones were, of course, the Parenthood reunion, the Scrubs reunion, and then Westworld had a pretty big reveal during the course of the panel that nobody was expecting to happen. So why don't we go ahead with Parenthood first? What was the news coming from the Parenthood panel?
So Parenthood, there wasn't really any big news. They had four of the cast there for the reunion. They had Monica Potter, Erica Christensen, and then Dax Shepard, and the woman that played his wife on the show. And so that panel, it was interesting to hear like their audition stories and other behind the scenes stories. Monica Potter was a little out of it during the panel. And so she was doing weird faces and talking to the audience and like mimicking hearts and squirming all over the couch. Definitely something going on there. So it was a little distracting at times. Like, the creator of the series was trying to give some whole heartfelt speech, and so one side of the theater was like ooh and ahhing at that, and meanwhile I could hear from my right ear, I could hear laughter. Everyone completely lost it based on what Monica Potter was doing on that side of the room. So, but somehow the rest of the people, Erica Christensen was right next to her, she somehow managed to ignore most of it, and Dax was good at like bringing things back. Like she said some pretty inappropriate things during the panel, and that HR, and then she kept saying, I wonder if HR is going to find me and things like that. So it was very, very weird and strange.
Did Dax's podcast come up at all, or did he keep it more focused on the show itself?
I don't think he mentioned his podcast. The podcast came up all the time in the Scrubs panel, much to Bill Lawrence's dismay. But yeah, I don't think Dax ever mentioned his podcast.
Because the Scrubs Rewatch podcast is amazing. The two of them doing it together is such a good show. Such a good show if you're a Scrubs fan. So people waited over an hour for Scrubs. And it looked like we had Bill Lawrence, we had Zach Braff, we had Donald Faison. Who else ended up making it for the reunion? Dr. Cox showed up?
Dr. Cox showed up. He didn't say much, but he was there. They had Carla. They had, who else was there? Elliot was there.
Okay.
I can't think of their real names. I think that was it. Oh, no, they had the janitor. They had the janitor.
Okay.
Yeah, he shared.
Did we find out the janitor's name finally?
No, he didn't say that. He did share a story where he was walking down the street and some woman ran up to him and said, "I love Malcolm in the Middle." And then he said, "You're half right." And he said, "Oh, I love Malcolm." And then, so there were other, like, fun and interesting stories of, like, fan encounters. And they did talk about, like, somebody asked them, would you come back for a reboot? And they said definitely they would come back. And so they think it's just not if, but when everyone's available. Donald suggested they do a movie if that made things easier because people would be available. Yeah, they were all, like, you could sense that they were still all loved to be around each other and the chemistry was all still there, definitely.
I heard rumor that there was a reprise of the musical episode during the course of the panel.
They did sing Guy Love. Somebody asked them to sing a little bit of Guy Love. So Zach and Donald sang a little bit of that. And then Sarah said that she doesn't sing. So somebody asked her later on if she could lead everyone else in a rendition of the opening theme song, which she did. And then she kept on making sure everyone was joining her so she wasn't singing alone.
And then, of course, the Hollywood Outsider is also the home to the Beyond Westworld podcast. And Kyle's done some great stuff and on-the-scenes reporting for any kind of Westworld type things. What was all the buzz around Westworld? I heard they had some activations this year, as well as the panel also.
Yeah, so they had this really cool coffee cart outside for the first 3 days of the festival, where basically you would walk up to the coffee cart and you start ordering your coffee. And as soon as they asked you your name, all of a sudden this ominous music would start. Their face would freeze up and they'd just like stare at you for a good full minute. It got uncomfortable after a while. They might twitch their face sometimes. I visited the coffee cart 3 times. They might twitch their face sometimes and then spurt out some ominous thing like, "She's coming for you." And then all of a sudden he'd be back smiling. "Oh, what's your name?" And then he'd write it down and finish your order. Like, just like not even like didn't miss a beat. Like, it was just so like really well done. And so that was there. There's a bunch of pictures out. It looked like all the various cast members. And they also had one of the white drone hosts walking around, just walking up behind people throughout the day, like just randomly harassing people in the line for Paramount and Stateside Theater. So that was fun and interesting.
So I love when they do things like that, where they actually like interact with the people waiting in line, because that waiting in line in the sun is just... It's never a fun day. I can't imagine, especially when you're talking summer in Texas, right?
Yeah, and I can't imagine it's fun for the person in the drone host costume in that heat. Like
that person's only out there for 15 minutes. They like switch them out, I'm sure, like the different Mickey Mouses over at Disney World. So then inside the panel for Westworld, did we get any good tips on season 4 or what all went down inside?
Yeah, so we were hoping that we were going to get like to see the full premiere, but all they did, they showed us one clip, which was basically Bernard and Stubbs in a diner, and then something happens and Bernard takes care of it while Stubbs is happy eating and listening to music in the diner. But then it does lead into the reveal of Aurora Perrineau's character. We don't know her name, but we get to see her and get a glimpse at what she is.
And did they tell us what Dolores is going to be doing?
Yes.
Evan Rachel Wood, how is she going to fit into this whole thing?
So what they were telling us was there's this nerdy single lady named Christina who's off in New York, in a city that looks like New York City, this woman that looks like Evan Rachel Wood. And she is a writer, and she is being set up by her roommate, who's Ariana DeBose. And so who may or may not have a crush on her, and she just sets her up on all these bad dates. And since she's a writer, she's seen a lot of rom-coms, and she may like James Marsden, so maybe she imagines that one of her dates looks like James Marsden. So that might be a good date. Maybe that one goes well because she likes how he looks. Like, Lisa Joy is brilliant at giving these maybe this and maybe that, and like won't really tell you like definitely what's happened. Like, maybe this is what happens. And but she's saying this is as close as she'll ever get to writing a rom-com because her mother loves rom-coms. But so that's all we really know about the character. She said definitely what happened to Dolores happened to Dolores. Dolores is done. So
the one that we knew as Dolores Prime is officially deceased.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay.
Spoilers, jeez.
You had 2 years to catch up on season 3.
And James Marsden made a guest appearance, I heard, at the panel.
Yeah, so they started off the panel saying, we're only taking questions via Twitter. So then, like, mid-panel, he's like, oh, we have a live audience question. So it's like, this is some sort of setup because we were already told we're not taking questions from the audience. And so then this guy stands up in the back and says, oh, Teddy's my favorite character. We can see more of him in season 4. And so then they pan over to him and then we see that it's actually James Marsden. So then they brought him on stage and he joined them for the rest of the panel.
So there is hope that we're going to see Teddy back inside of the season potentially.
I mean, we'll definitely see him as one of these dates. I don't know if he's playing James Marsden or if he's playing Teddy or what he's playing. They were very vague. They were not giving details.
Because any particular body could be any particular host at this point.
Yeah.
Because we have to play by the new rules. There are no more rules after season 2. And you can, of course, check out Westworld on HBO and listen to the Beyond Westworld podcast here on thehollywoodoutsiders.com.
That just sounds exhausting, honestly. The whole, like, there are no rules. There are rules. There are no rules. Everything's open. What?
That door. What door? All the fun stuff that it all entails. It's so good. I can't believe it's going to be coming at the end of the month.
I know. It's going to be a long 3 weeks.
Any good eats? Any other good things around town that you guys ran into besides just the panels?
I really only ate at one restaurant the whole time I was there. I just got some tacos one day. Otherwise, I was pretty much in the panels most of the time. They did have a lot of these organized, like happy hour type of things where maybe like sometimes they gave food at those and they had things in the morning that you could go and get like a bagel and some drinks. So they had a bunch of places that you could actually get food for free if you were just trying to quickly grab something before your panels. And then Lifetime had a huge spread of food on the final day for their Flowers in the Attic Origins series. Like they had a premiere for that. They showed the first episode and had a Q&A with cast. I didn't go to that one. I did visit the food quickly before I headed to the airport, and it was really well done food. But
food is important at these events. Get to rub elbows with anybody? You bumping any famous peeps?
Not this year. Like in the past, like everyone would always congregate at the SFA, the Stephen F. Austin bar at the end of the day, and we couldn't, since that was no longer the headquarters this year. We were having trouble figuring out where everyone was like sort of hanging out at night. We tried another bar another night, and we didn't see anyone there, so we'll have to figure that out now that they changed the headquarters.
Cool. Well, if you want to check it out, where do people go to see your stuff, Kyle, for all the daily wrap-ups that you guys were doing?
You can head to noreruns.net, and I've been posting my wrap-ups, and I'll also have I did the red carpet the opening night, so I'll have some video interviews for that as well.
Cool. And if people are interested in doing season 12, can they buy, is there like an early sign up for tickets now, or do they got to wait?
They haven't sent that out yet. I assume they'll probably have something very soon to sign up and buy badges, but you can just go to atxfestival.com and they'll update that with the information.
Sweet. Awesome. Well, I definitely want to try to make sure I get there next year. It was really close this year. I just could not make the dates work because my kids were graduating from 8th grade. So it's kind of an important milestone. But Scrubs, I mean, Eagle, Guy Love. It was hard.
They did mention Eagle. Like when the reboot came up, Zach Braff was like, "You just want me to ride Donald now when I'm older now." But
he should have done it when he came out and they introduced everybody during the course of the panel. Like that's exactly how they should have come out together. Just saying. But let's go ahead and move into our spoiler-free reviews and what we've been watching here recently. There wasn't anything that came out at the theater this weekend, and I know Kyle was a little bit busy at the festival, so I'm looking to John. Was there anything that you watched on Netflix or Paramount or any of those other fun streaming services this weekend?
I was about to say Stranger Things, but that wasn't this weekend. So no, No, I didn't watch anything. What about you?
I'm the same way. I spent my entire last weekend doing the Stranger Things, the Obi-Wan, all the fun stuff. The one thing that I did notice, though, while I was watching Stranger Things is that Love, Death, and Robots did drop a season 3, but I wasn't done with season 2 yet. So I've been watching season 2 of Love, Death, and Robots so I can get ready for season 3. So that is my plan for this weekend, is to catch up on Love, Death, and Robots season 3 over on Netflix, because they haven't canceled that one yet, but it might happen.
I don't think they're going to. The animation stuff they're doing is actually pretty fantastic. I don't foresee them canceling some of that stuff, because it's a little bit cheaper than dealing with some of the shows they're getting rid of.
Yeah, I mean, all of the stuff that they do on that show is really fascinating. I remembered I went back and actually watched Helping Hand, I think it was, from season 1. It's an episode where this lady goes up in a capsule into outer space, and she's going to fix a panel on the end of the space station. And then some random debris ends up flying at her, and she ends up getting knocked off into space. And of course, they can't get to her. And the premise is basically her trying to figure out the best way possible to get back to her spacecraft. And just the animation for space, and she has to take her suit off, and like basically her arm, gets obviously, cold in space, and then she breaks her arm off in order to use it as like a projectile to create momentum. Sort of anti-momentum to go in the direction, because obviously your jetpack is malfunctioning. And just the colorization they do in that episode alone with space and the grayness of it, I just thought it was really fantastic on how that's all.
So it sounds like what she ran into in that episode was love then, right?
Yeah.
Because it doesn't sound like it was death or robots.
No, because you were assuming that she was going to die. And I think that was the cool thing about that episode, was that she ended up not dying, but just losing a helping hand, because she didn't end up with an arm at the end of the episode, which is kind of fun.
I do have 2 recommendations. One premieres this coming weekend, and the other is currently airing. So one of the things that they had at ATX was Dark Winds, which is a new show that premieres on June 12th on AMC. It's this like noir murder mystery 70s 70s set TV show about 3 tribal police officers investigating both a murder and a bank heist, and all this stuff is all interconnected. And it's 6 episodes. It premieres on Sunday, and then it's released weekly. So if you get AMC Plus, you might get the first 2 episodes that first week instead of just 1. But I watched all 6 episodes. I got to talk to some of the producers of that. I think it's really well done. It has lots of twists and turns. It's very specific to this Native American story, but also the characters and storylines are all very relatable just to anyone. And I thought that was really well done. And then,
did it actually end at the end of the 6th episode? So that way there's no cliffhanger. We're not going to get it canceled or anything.
Nope, complete story. So there's these, I guess there's these Lee Porn and Chi novels. I've never read any of them, but this basically tells one complete story with those characters. So they could easily bring them back and tell another story, like basically how they're doing all these other shows based on book characters, like trying to implement one book. Although here, I guess all these different characters are all in different books, all written by the same author, but they merged 3 of these characters all into the same story, so that they didn't have to wait and bring characters in way later on. So they kind of took pieces of all of the books, sprinkled it in to make this one series. Yes.
But there could be a potential they could pull some of those other stories if this does well,
exactly,
to keep the series going. But at least we'll feel like there was a satisfying conclusion at the end of the 6.
Yep. And then the other show, it's another one that I saw a panel for at ATX. It's called I Love That For You. It's on Showtime. They're almost up to their season finale, so you could binge it all if you get Showtime for a month. But basically, the premise is Vanessa Bayer plays this woman who goes to try to work at a QVC type of place. But in order to get the job, she says that her childhood leukemia came back. And so now it's a sitcom, but she's trying to cover up this lie, but she's really good at her job. So now she's conflicted. Like, does she tell them the truth about what happened? Or does she just keep going with the slide, but the situation keeps snowballing because they want to like take advantage of this for the QVC station and promote it. But now it's becoming bigger and bigger and bigger. But it also has Molly Shannon, and it has I forget what her name is. She was a woman from Blackish is also in it. So it's really well done. And I don't know if this one's going to have a conclusion at the end because there's still another episode to air. But we'll see. But I've really enjoyed what I've seen so far.
Did it run the sitcom format then, like 20, 25 minutes, shorter episodes?
Oh, yeah. I don't know how long because it's on Showtime, but it's like half-hour episodes, probably less than that. But yeah, so it's only 4 hours for the whole season, if that.
And then I assume everybody's going to see Jurassic World this weekend, except for John, because he doesn't have a theater to see it
Definitely.
in.
Sounds about right.
Yeah.
I already ordered my 3D tickets.
So people are going to see it in D-Box. I don't understand what the fascination is with the D-Box theater. Have you done a D-Box theater?
I don't even know if there's one around here. That's where they shake the seats, right?
Something, yeah. Like full 4D immersion, dinosaur stomp on your head during the course of the movie or something. Yeah, the acid in your face from the Diplosaurus. Well, that was just the popcorn topping. It wasn't really.
This acid tastes delicious.
This is great.
I just don't the AMC Prime Dolby Theater. The amount of like rumble in your butt from the afterburners in Top Gun, or like an AT-AT walker like on the beach, that's enough. Like I don't need to be jostled around after I had popcorn soup, because I think that just would not be a good result for anybody. My opinion. But some people on this podcast apparently are going to go see it in D-Box. So we'll get the full report next week on the show. All right, with that, let's go ahead and move into our From the Outside In topic. Well, recently over 40 TV shows were canceled and not given a proper ending. That's recently. That doesn't even conclude all of the ones in the past, like the OA for John, or maybe Timeless, or some of those other ones, which did getting a little bit of a reprieve, if you will. But there are plenty of shows out there that left us on a cliffhanger and did not get a proper ending, much like the recent axing, which happened, which was HBO Max's Raised by Wolves, which did end on a second season cliffhanger and will have no resolution whatsoever.
Yeah, that one stings too.
Yeah. Because I didn't even start watching the second season. I was going to watch the second season once the finale aired so I could binge it. And then I got the news and I'm like, I guess I just won't even bother watching season 2 now.
Yeah,
should I watch season 2? Was season 2 any good?
I was halfway through it, and now I'm not going to bother finishing it, because what's the point if it's not going to end? So
I finished it. I thought season 2 was better than season 1, and yeah, I'm so annoyed.
Is it like OA level annoyance, or is it below OA level annoyance?
No, this is more like flash forward level annoyance.
Okay.
Flash Forward is a show that I really loved. I thought it was really great. It ended, and I was like, that's going to be good. And then when they said it's canceled, I was like, well, that sucks. And I moved on.
What's the biggest one, John, that's impacted you?
The one that cut me, the one that really, really cut me, that just took everything from like every little bit of like the last little bits of joy in my life, the last little thing of like whatever it is that makes me me, the one that would just like stab that in the face was the canceling of Stargate Universe.
Oh, okay.
So for those who don't know, the Stargate series, whole universe, well, the Stargate world had 3 shows. The first show was Stargate SG-1, which kind of picks up where the movie left off and creates this ever-expanding world. They pushed it a little further by doing Stargate Atlantis. Stargate Atlantis was kind of a carbon copy of Stargate SG-1, only different characters. Introduced a lot of people to Jason Momoa. Was it a good show? Yeah, for the most part, it was a good show. But again, kind of a carbon copy of Stargate SG-1. Stargate Universe was a completely different show from the first 2. The only way I can really equate it was it's kind of like Lost in the Stargate world. and it does something completely different. It gives you an entirely different thing to worry about as far as a like quote unquote villain, and it plays with some ideas of how space is supposed to work, because the whole thing takes place on a spaceship that's traveling through the universe, and yeah, it was just like the cast was something completely different. The characters were completely different. Everything about it was completely different from the first two shows. And it really pushed the envelope as far as like really good acting is concerned. As far as for me, was they had some really fantastic actors on that show. So when they ended the second season on a cliffhanger, I was excited to see where they were going to go, but I had already started hearing rumblings that they might cancel it. This is also back in the day of Sci-Fi, otherwise known as Sci-Fi, otherwise known as the channel that I will not watch anymore. And then, I got that news. It broke me. Absolutely broke me.
And he's never gone back to Sci-Fi ever since.
No, I really haven't. Actually, I got tricked into going back to Sci-Fi by people telling me that I needed to watch The Expanse. I watched the first couple of episodes years ago of The Expanse, and I was like, nope, not going to happen. It's sure, it looks cool, it's great, but it's on Sci-Fi, and I'm not going to give Sci-Fi any more of my attention. And then recently, because I had nothing better to do with my time, I decided to pick it up, and it is a fantastic show. And then Amazon takes it over. And you can see exactly where all the Amazon money goes, because it goes everywhere in that show, and it gets even better. So, and even that one ends on a maybe we will get another season, maybe we won't. But yeah, that was like, again, Sci-Fi can go screw themselves.
Yeah, Sci-Fi was like good for like the 2-season thing. So they even like beat Netflix.
Oh yeah, they
at their own game.
They were doing Netflix's thing long before Netflix ever did.
What about you, Kyle? What's one that gutted you when it came?
I don't think I've ever been like gutted, torn to the core, that kind of set, but one that still bugs.
Oh, sure, I'm the weird one, Kyle.
So one that still bugs me to this day is Santa Clarita Diet on Netflix. It got 4 seasons. It builds to this huge cliffhanger, and then we never get to see what happens. And so I just loved those characters. I found the world so much fun. It's basically a show about people becoming basically zombies and trying to eat brains and things. But but it was a sitcom, or not a sitcom, but a comedy. But yeah, I just enjoyed that show so much. It was one of the few shows on Netflix I actually would watch as soon as it dropped. I'd binged through the whole thing, and then I was so excited. Like, season 4 just leaves you like they do something to one of the characters, and you really want to see what happens next, and then we'll never find out. It's one of those I wish they would have just brought it back for one final season to wrap things up,
or even just a movie or something. Yeah, because I mean that seems to be like the way this goes typically, is you at least get some kind of movie, but not always. Because the one that I wouldn't say I'm like gutted by it, but I really enjoyed the concepts and where it was headed. And when we got to the end of its run in 2014 was Revolution. Revolution had a really great premise with the power being out, and then the fact that there was the ability to actually turn the power back on. It was just being blocked by this kind of nanobotic technology. And then when they didn't pick it up at the end of season 2 for a third and fourth season, you're left with this like unknowingness that there's this nanobotic alien technology that's kind of out there that they have to go fight against. And all we get is a stupid comic book, which wasn't even that good to resolve the story. And it was just really, really depressing, because the entire show was actually really fascinating about a different take, what a post-apocalyptic world would look like without having the whole like war as the, backing thing. But of course, war does then break out as people vie for supplies and resources and people, much like The Walking Dead. So I was really disappointed that Revolution did not get at least a movie, because it did get the comic book. Like, some streaming service at least would have picked it up and made it happen. But unfortunately, that is not the case.
I wonder if that would have happened if it was more recent, like with what they did with Manifest. I'm wondering if maybe they would have picked that up like these days.
Or more importantly, like the fact that the people that were involved with Revolution were also involved with Timeless. And then that way, at least they know that this is what happened to Revolution. He's not going down with the flames again. So they at least gave Timeless the movie to wrap it up, which I think was super, super cool because I love the way that Timeless finally did actually wrap up the show. Like that was really, really well done, really stellar for what they had to work with. Right. It's not the greatest thing on TV by any stretch of the imagination, but it definitely was for network TV. It was a good movie send off for Timeless specifically. So speaking of Timeless, it kind of fits into one of these like happy surprises. So what's the one series that you were shocked actually got a extra season or an extra ending or a TV movie to kind of wrap up the story, Kyle?
For me, it was Zoe's Extraordinary Playlist. I thought that was, when that was canceled, I thought, okay, we're never going to, they left on a cliffhanger. He can suddenly hear stuff like, so that we're just going to be left with that. But then out of nowhere, we get the Roku channel, like providing a wrap up TV movie, which like shocking both the network that did it and that we actually got a wrap up movie for it. So I was at least happy that we got some kind of resolution there for that show.
Even though the ending of season 2 was completely predictable, but that's exactly what was going to happen.
Maybe predictable to you. I didn't see it coming, but
did you like the final movie, the Christmas special?
Yeah, I thought it was a decent. I mean, it's tough to wrap up a whole show in one movie, but at least it provides some. It was able to address what we saw at the end of season 2, and then give it some kind of, at least somewhat of a conclusion, which I think it worked out pretty well.
Yeah, allowing Zoe to move on from her dad and the feelings that they all had around him, and they could kind of start their lives over in a new spot, which I think was kind of cool.
Yeah.
What about you, John?
For me, which lands in this category pretty easily is Farscape. Farscape's another one of these sci-fi shows. It just makes me mad about mentioning a sci-fi, but the end of this final, what ended up being the final season, was definitely a cliffhanger for that show. And you know, if you haven't seen it, John and Aaron are on a boat and they're having this sweet moment because they just worked really hard to save each other's lives, and they're having this great moment where they're talking about their future and where life's going to go from there. And then they get shot and disintegrated, and you've got everybody else on the main ship who's seeing this happen. They're screaming. The buddy that I was watching this show with, he's screaming. I'm screaming. We're both on our feet. We're both yelling at the TV, like, what just happened? And then we're waiting for the next season to come, and they canceled the show. But what we ended up getting was a final like wrap up to the whole series called Farscape: The Peacekeeper Wars. And it really did tie a nice bow on the whole story, and really let the series end beautifully. And
see, and that was a series that I think people were very much tied to. Like it was a point in time series where if people found it was like a cult following for that show.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think that's what a lot of these that get these movies finales. It is a true cult following that like screams at the top of their lungs to make this stuff happen. And obviously much easier today, right? With social media and campaigns and Twitter blitzes and things of that nature. So for Farscape to be able to do that in kind of this post-social media, pre-social media era, I think that's really a testament to the fans of that particular property to make that happen.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
Like I said, I mentioned Timeless, right? The Timeless season 2 finale ended on a cliffhanger of Rufus being killed in 1888 San Francisco, and a future Lucy and Wyatt coming home to the 2018 timeline. As these future time travelers explain, like we were all just like, what? You killed Rufus? What? And then they canceled the show, and everybody just lost their shit. I mean, like letter campaigns, Twitter campaigns, everybody was jumping all over the board in order to make sure that we figured out what was actually happening, because then we found out like was it Rufus's girlfriend was actually going to be pregnant or something. And so it's just this whole thing that just sparked a complete firestorm on the internet. And then not only did it get like a final movie, but it was like The Miracle of Christmas Part 1, Part 2. I think we have something familiar brewing at NBC on how they can finish these shows, right? Because it was a Christmas thing for Zoe, it was a Christmas thing for Timeless. So if you need to bring back a show on NBC for a finale, just have a Christmas special, and then they'll go ahead and throw it on in the December month, so they got nothing else airing, and then it'll probably end up happening. But Timeless, they were able to finish it up. You have Lucy and Wyatt, doing all the things that they need to do in the finale. I don't want to ruin it because it's still a pretty recent show. But it was really, really good to see that Timeless had a good closure because of the movie, and it made all of us Time people super, super happy, especially the Remaking History podcast, which our friends Doug and Karen, they did a really great job over there covering Timeless. And I know they were big. Their whole group was part of the campaign to get this thing to happen. So, but if you haven't seen Timeless or Farscape or Zoe's Extraordinary Player List, definitely check them out because they're very short, only 2 seasons. So, and a movie, and you'll be all good. Now, we've all been there, but with so many shows, is it even fair to expect the studios to deliver an ending to the show that someone's watching, John? Like, do we, the fans, as consumers, do we have a right to demand an end to our stories? Or is it just art and tough shit?
Well, I don't think this has anything to do with whether or not it's art and it's tough shit or anything else like that. But it definitely is the luck of the draw. If you can find your audience right away, then yeah, you have a right to be able to tell the stories. What I think is more important to this whole idea is that find your audience first. Take your first season to really develop your audience and really focus on any sort of marketing campaigns you can do, any sort of driving your audience to find more of its audience to share it with ideas. I mean, those are the things that need to start happening when it comes to this stuff. I know that I've become a kind of person that unlike Troy, who's like, hey, the Station 11 thing, you better watch it or I'm going to start mentioning it to you every 5 minutes. I am more so like, what I'm watching that I really like? I like this. Please give it a shot. If you don't...
Since you guys can't see, Kyle literally just put on his Station 11 hat that he got at the panel that he didn't want to go to in the first place. So I'm hoping that Kyle's actually putting that hat in the mail for it to be at my house.
Is that a fitted hat? It looks like a fitted hat.
It's one of these snapback hats.
Oh, is it?
I didn't adjust the back,
but it is a new era hat. That's a fine quality hat.
A fine quality hat.
It really is. Anyhow, I really try to express, hey, this thing that I have that I'm watching is something I really love, and maybe you will, maybe you won't, and then I leave it at that. But still, I lost my point, but I think you guys all know it, right?
I feel it for sure.
Yeah.
What about you, Kyle?
So I don't think it's fair to expect them to always wrap up everything, but I do think that they have a responsibility of not leaving things on a cliffhanger when you don't know if you're coming back. You could wrap up the main arc of the season, but don't then throw in someone possibly dying or some other big thing that may never get resolved. And I think it's also on, especially when it comes to the streaming networks, if it's been 3 or 4 seasons in, and you gotta let people know ahead of time that they're on the bubble or something, that they should probably provide an ending and wrap things up, because you're probably not gonna pick them up again. So, especially there where you're on streaming, you've now devoted 3 years, or any show, if you've already devoted 3 or 4 years of your life into watching this thing, and now all of a sudden it's never going to get a conclusion, I'd say, or just if you're planning on throwing in some cliffhanger and it gets canceled, go back and edit it before it airs and remove that extra little ending there to at least. I mean, you could film a little 5-minute wrap up that they could tack on at the end to just wrap things up in case.
Or a little mini web episode or something you can just throw up on YouTube. Or
yeah.
Playing devil's advocate to the whole thing is that what if some of these shows actually put the cliffhanger in specifically so that they can drum up interest in the show so that they can specifically make sure they get a next season. So, and it just ends up backfiring on them.
I knew we were going to have conspiracy theories at some point in this show.
I think they definitely did that for that V reboot series. They definitely made that thing go nuts at the end and threw in these big, huge cliffhangers when their ratings were already tanking. They were just trying to force the network to try to pick them up at that point.
That show was hot garbage.
Elizabeth Mitchell was hot for sure, but the show was garbage.
I hate you.
Kyle is saying it should be the writer's responsibility to make sure that the ending is at least a solid ending because they should know well enough in advance, in his point of view. John, you're saying that the fans really shouldn't be expecting anything at this point because people are just here to screw us over.
I didn't think I sounded that absolutely negative, but yeah, sure, whatever.
I think it's on the network, honestly. I think it's the network's responsibility. You're the ones that are going to cancel the show. Like, it's not like you don't have time to fill on the programming schedule, that even if the show was complete crap, it's like you've seen, like, for example, if you're watching a particular 22 episode network show, they're usually done filming, say April-ish time frame, second, third week of April. Then that after it goes to post and all that other fun stuff to get cleaned up before it airs in May, of course. But the big thing is that the networks have seen a copy, so they know what's going to be happening. So I think the networks have a responsibility to say, look, we've invested 2, 3, 4 years into this particular property. We should absolutely at least have one episode to let them wrap up a story if they can. And if it's not an episode, it's a movie, or maybe it's a YouTube clip or something on the DVD, but there should at least be like, how does it freaking end? And I think that because if I'm the network, I want to make sure I lock in the property, because the minute I cancel the show and then someone's like, oh, here's the fan campaign, think like Jericho with the whole nuts and everybody shipping the nuts to the front door. Like that, if that would have happened today in a streaming area, Netflix or Hulu or Peacock or Paramount, somebody would have picked that up right away because of the buzz that it would have drawn. It would have brought in the subscribers that they need. If I'm CBS, I'm like, no, I'm locking that down because I want to make sure the property stays with me and I get the money off of that property, even if it's less than I was expecting it to be. At least something's better than nothing versus having it go somewhere else, a la The Expanse, and being better than it was on the original network. So yeah, I think the networks have a responsibility to try to keep the properties that they invested in originally, unless of course it was like a Berlanti show or a WB show that they bought that wasn't part of the in-house ABC Studios or Universal Pictures or what have you.
I think that's also part of the problem. If you have a show that ends in a cliffhanger, now in this whole streaming world, it's going to go sit on some streaming service, but who's going to want to watch it if they know it doesn't have an ending? Like, I know as soon as some show gets canceled second, third season, I just delete it off my TiVo unwatch, whatever I haven't watched, because why am I going to bother watch it now when I know it has no ending to it?
Right, like Raised by Wolves comes off of my list now, because why bother watching season 2 if it's not going to be around for anything more than a cliffhanger at the end of season 2? And as interesting as season 1 was, I mean, the show is friggin' slow. I mean, it is a very slow burn show. It
doesn't get any faster either.
And I will tell you that I don't know if it was better or worse than Dune, but I thought when I was watching Dune, the movie, that I was watching Raised by Wolves.
Well, it's worse than Dune, but I see what you're saying.
Yeah, I mean, I literally thought, like, because I was watching Dune on HBO Max, and when the movie started, I'm like, is this a commercial for Raised by Wolves season 2? Oh no, this is the movie. Sorry. Because it felt very similar in pace and tone. Very similar. The Chosen Child. I mean, the story is pretty much the same thing in a lot of ways.
Are you talking to Harry Potter and Star Wars?
No, well, that too. But way to bring it back around. So we had a few listener comments on our topic. We had this one from Scott Calgaro. He mentioned Almost Human. I'm a huge Carl Urban fan, and that show had so much potential. Story was awesome, production value was very high, and the casting was perfect. Minka Kelly's in that one, by the way. That show should have been a huge hit, and I would agree. The problem is, Kyle, you know this better than anybody. What did Almost Human suffer from?
It was on Fox.
Yeah, it was Fox. It was the Fox sci-fi show that never gets picked up ever again.
The Fox Friday sci-fi show that gets its air schedule messed with because they actually aired episodes out of order, not a sequence. So then people get confused on purpose so that they cancel the show. Super annoying. Because Almost Human was actually pretty good. I did enjoy that one. Let's see. Wayne Henderson mentioned Alcatraz, also a Fox sci-fi show.
Oh, that's actually another one that annoyed the crap out of me because I thought that was pretty great.
It was really, really great. I like the concept, the idea, the whole time travel part of it, everything of that. The last 3 episodes really picked up steam, according to Wayne. When they started showing the time travel experiments, I was totally hooked. And I don't disagree. We didn't mention Freaks and Geeks. Ty Nelson said, Freaks and Geeks. I didn't watch when they first aired, but discovered later both are unlike any other shows I'd seen before them. They each have somewhat satisfying finales. He's also talking about Lodge 49 in here. You definitely feel like you got a complete story or conclusion to most character arcs. What makes me miss them isn't the unresolved stories needing to know what happened next. It's the actual characters themselves. Spending time with the people I connected with and sharing the impactful moments of their lives, then suddenly ripped out of your heart. They're gone. They're now like old friends who drifted away, but you always wonder, what are they up to today? And then you go, yeah, Seth Rogen, what are you up to today?
He's not living up to anything, is he?
Not at all, right? Freaks and Geeks launched so many careers that it's hard to believe that got so little attention because it was such a good show. It was really, 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 really good. And then I guess we got to also mention Flash Forward, right? We brought that up once already, but Flash Forward made me angry from Andreas. That show really had potential. Carnival was hard too. And at the moment, I'm really sad about Raised by Wolves. But at the same time, I get why it did not have a huge audience. This show is everything but mainstream. That is for sure. Raised by Wolves is a very niche show.
Yeah, I mean, as much as I really enjoyed it, there's that show has an audience that's tiny because a lot of people will not have the patience or the understanding or the willing to be pliable on anything that happens in that show.
So it's the same audience that watches Station 11 and Lost and Flash Forward and The Event and La Brea.
Well, La Brea got renewed.
I know. I don't understand how that's possible.
What was the other one that was the same thing? There was the other one where they went... That was Fox. If they went...
Terra Nova was probably the closest to La Brea. But the fact that La Brea gets renewed and Debris does not get renewed, especially at the end of Debris, when you have the big reveal of who's coming into the show at that time. And I'm just like, why are you doing this to me? Why do you bring John Noble into a show and then you cancel the show? It's
Oh, he's kind of becoming like the kiss of death for some shows, isn't he? He's like John Noble's here. Oh, this show's done.
Dude, you be quiet. He did all 5 seasons of Fringe, and it was freaking amazing when it ended.
That's all he ever needs to do ever again. Like, that's it. He could just do Fringe and be that. That's it. Like, that's a feather in his cap. He doesn't need it. That's the top of his career right there. One that actually I just remembered.
Wait. Don't forget though, eating some mad chicken and burning himself alive in Return of the King.
Well, I know. And also like eating like cherry grapes or cherry tomatoes in a weird way. Like that was disturbing. So one that actually just popped into my head that I remember, I bring this up posthumously because I didn't see it when it was on the air, but it was Surface.
Oh yeah.
That's another one that was like, that one had that one kind of suffered for one thing because it was coming on around the same time as Lost, and everyone said, you know what we need? We need the next Lost. So it has to be like this big overarching story, and it has to have this really weird sort of Bible that goes along with it. And it checks off all those boxes, only it has a really great cast, and it has a kind of a cool premise. And it was one of those shows that I caught on Netflix or something, and I just fell in love with it. And I was like, there's got to be another season of this coming. And then I did some reading, and I caught it 2 or 3 years after it was canceled.
You didn't find that ending satisfying with the church flooding and everyone stuck inside, and then it just ends?
Yeah, no, that wasn't satisfying. No,
Yeah, the one that was like that was Invasion. where it was the hurricane, but then the inside the water of the hurricane tide were like these little
all the
alien things that were infesting people's bodies. Kind of an
Yeah.
invasion of the body snatchers twist. Like that was a good show
Yeah.
too. I like that one.
Yeah, again, that was something that came out around the same time as Lost, that was trying to do the big show, the big cast Lost thing. And really, at that time, we only had the attention span for one Lost. We didn't need another one.
Yeah. So good topic. All good shows that go by the wayside. OA. Man, we will miss you.
God damn it. That one cuts me, man.
That is a hard ending to end on and not have another episode.
Seriously. And it's that show really, like, you know, we talk about Raised by Wolves and how Raised by Wolves really, you know, has a niche that it sat in. And this, I guess you can say this one did as well, because the OA there was nothing else like it on television that I can come close to thinking about.
I mean, it wasn't like Westworld at all in any way, shape, or form, since it came on at the exact same time. I mean, there wasn't anything on TV that was like it.
She didn't have the Westworld budget.
I feel like you're trying to set me up. But no, there wasn't anything else on TV.
There wasn't anything like Altered Carbon that was very close to it as well. That was on at the same time on the same channel that had the OA airing on it.
Yeah, but Altered Carbon, though beautifully done and shocking as far as the quality of like for Netflix is, because it could practically be on a movie screen too. Altered Carbon was just okay. It wasn't the OA.
The first season I thought of Altered Carbon was pretty damn good.
We're gonna have to agree to disagree on that one.
Come on, you have the full amenities of the hotel, and then the freaking guns come out of nowhere. And
there are great scenes.
Awesome.
You're absolutely right. There are great scenes in Altered Carbon. It wasn't the OA. The OA was something that hit me in like a piece of my heart that died years ago, and it was just like it started waking up this whole like enjoyment of magic, and yeah, that was it.
It was rekindling your lost spirits in a way.
Yes, pretty much.
Yeah, I get that feels. I understand where you're coming from.
Right.
But yeah, Altered Carbon was the reason I did buy my first 4K HD high definition Dolby Atmos sound. I mean, it just was like, ugh, like
yeah, no.
beautiful.
Altered Carbon was amazingly produced. I think that Joel Kinnaman, though I enjoy him in most things, in Altered Carbon, he wasn't good enough to keep my attention.
No, he specifically was like watching paint dry.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the second season was not as good for sure. And then
that had Anthony Mackie.
Yeah.
And I would watch Anthony Mackie read a freaking phone book. So you tell me what the problem with that show is.
But would he get
Netflix?
through the whole phone book before it got canceled?
Probably not, because it would be on Netflix. And Netflix would be like, okay, well, there's a lot of people watching this, but there's nobody talking about it on Twitter or something stupid like that, so let's just cancel it.
Yeah, only Rain Man got through the entire phone book, so.
Right.
All right. Well, if you had fun with this episode, make sure you share your thoughts on it or anything we talked about this week on social media, either in our Facebook group or on Twitter. We're at Buy Popcorn over on Twitter. Our website is thehollywoodoutsiders.com. You can email us at feedback@thehollywoodoutsiders.com. Make sure you go ahead and rate us and subscribe on your preferred podcast app as well. You can find John's artwork on Insta and Twitter at @RJohnDraws. Amanda, when she shows up, you can find her on Veronica's Marshmallows and Smirk. And she can find her on Twitter as well at Sync Into This. Aaron, you can obviously find him at Aaron Smirks on Twitter and over on his podcast, The Blacklist Exposed with me, Beyond Westworld podcast with me, and also on Presenting Hitchcock. And then, of course, you can find me at Troy Heinrichs and at The Blacklist GSM for The Blacklist Exposed. And Westworld comes back June 26th, and we'll have the podcast out hopefully the day after, beyondwestworldpodcast.com. Thanks so much, Kyle, for being here. Again, you can find Kyle at noreruns.net on the web. And where can they find you on the Twitters, Kyle, if they want to reach out to you?
You can find me at Kyool, KYOOL, or at No Reruns.
Nice. Sounds good. With that, we're going to play a little bit of a game, a little bit of a conversation. Open mic night. Kyle, you're the guest. So anything you want to talk about, The floor is yours.
Wow, this is really open. I didn't even know this was coming. How about, who is your favorite character actor?
Ooh.
In a TV show? Who do you always see? You may not even know their name, but when you see them on something,
you're always going to be like, it's that guy. That's a good question.
I would actually say it would have been David Harbour, but I don't think he qualifies anymore as just a character actor because he's kind of crossed over into more of a starring role in a lot of things, thanks to the power behind Stranger Things. But I recall all the different times I saw David Harbour in something, and I always liked seeing him. And I didn't know who he was then. I couldn't even tell you what his name was. But I saw him in Equalizer, and he played kind of a dirty cop in Equalizer. He was great. I saw him on several different episodes of Law and Order, and he was believable in the different, as the quote unquote criminal or villain or whatever it is you want to call it on Law and Order. He was also great in those things, and he would pop up from time to time in different movies, and there was just something about him that I always just liked seeing. And now I'm really happy to see that he's kind of crossed over into more of a starring position since Stranger Things.
I was thinking maybe William Fichtner, thinking Invasion, because he was in Invasion. William Fichtner seems to come to mind. He's always kind of that same kind of person in most of the stuff that he does. But whenever you see him show up, you're going to get quality work and everything that he's put to the screen. So I might have to go with William for sure.
Yeah, seeing him in Dark Knight when he's he's that mob bank manager.
Right.
He was the best person for that because he looks like, a bookish, kind of not that impressive of a guy, but then the bank gets robbed by the Joker and he's walking around like he's Billy Badass. Like I can see William Fichtner being one of the few people who can make that transition.
Oh, and the fact they played 3 different characters on As the World Turns Alone. I mean, that is the quintessential character actor right there. The fact that you can have that long of a run on a soap.
Isn't that kind of a prerequisite on the soap? Like how many people can you do? Well, I can do me.
You have to play your twin. You have to play your twin too. You definitely.
Right. I can play my own twin. I can play my twin, and I can tuck it so that I can be my female twin. That's kind of the prerequisite for a soap. So you're not impressing me.
And then the fact that he can go from Grace Under Fire all the way over to Entourage or even Prison Break, right? When he was Alexander Mahone over on Prison Break. I mean, such a wide range.
Now you're just reading his IMDb page.
I totally am. I remembered him on Prison Break though. I did not know he was in As the World Turns. It's 3 different characters though. I had to look that one up.
Oh, see,
you did that stealthily. I didn't even know you were on IMDb.
What about you, Kyle?
I have no idea. I knew this was coming back to me when I brought up the question, and I still couldn't think of a name.
Poor Kyle. He's like,
Google
I'm going to stump them with this, and then we came up with something pretty quickly, each of us, and he went, shit!
You're reading my mind! Meanwhile, all that stuck in my head was, oh yeah, at the Scrubs reunion panel, Beard Fassé was in the audience.
Oh, was he really? That's great.
And so I'm like, has he been in anything else? Maybe he's a character actor.
Well, you even say the janitor is probably one of those people that would fit that bill.
He does. He actually does. Janitor does. He did get his own show for a little bit, which was in the middle. That poor person was like, I love Malcolm in the middle. I was like, you're almost there. But yeah, he got his own show. But at the same time, yeah, he wasn't it. It's isn't the whole story behind him being on the show? He was only supposed to be on an episode or 2, but he kind of tricked his way basically by being hysterical.
That's like that with most characters, though, that have that background part. I mean, Hisham Tawfiq on the Blacklist and Aram on the Blacklist, same exact thing. They were there supposed to be for one episode, and then they both just the fans loved them, so then they wrote them in as, the rest of the season, and then became recurring roles later on down the road. I mean, the whole premise of that whole thing, right? The penny in the door. That bit is why you watch Scrubs going forward, because you want to know, did he put the penny in the door or not? and you had to wait all the way to the end to find out.
Chris Pratt on Parks and Rec. That show really revitalized him. I mean, he was on the verge of becoming somebody special, and then kind of like ended up in Too Many Stupid Movies, and then he got married to Anna Faris, and she was carrying him along through all, her big starring roles that she was getting, and then all of a sudden, like, people started liking him. So good for him.
All right, Kyle, did you come up with one yet?
I'm gonna have to take a pass on this. I can't think of any name.
Kyle's not welcome back ever again. Can't even answer his own question.
Had I known I was going to ask a question beforehand, I might have had an actual answer to it.
He's all like, that David Harbour one, that one was pretty
good.
Great. Damn it.
Who invited this guy anyway? I swear.
I'm going to say it again. You.
All right. Well, thanks so much for being here, Kyle. Super appreciate it. And remember, the next time you head to a theater or go to the ATX Festival Season 12 next year in the Paramount Theater, buy popcorn. If it's available. It might be made out of soybeans the next time you eat it.